Episode 10 of the Geekdom101 podcast was from October 26, 2018, and it's the second part of our look at the classic horror movies of all time, not just the must-see ones, but also the hidden gems. On this one, we talk about Phantasm, Hellraiser, George Romero Zombie Movies, comedy underground horror films. There's just so much stuff out there that people have either slept on or not heard of or never seen. And we're discussing all of that here. Part 2 with Brandon Draven, discussing the horror hidden gems and great movies of the genre. I hope you enjoy it. Now I'm going to hit you with a couple of franchise films, like maybe the first one to kind of get your thoughts on them. You know, maybe we'll do a lightning round here. All right, Hellraiser. I really enjoy the early ones, especially the first two, where Pinhead's not really a heel. I love that concept. How do you feel about the Hellraiser franchise? I think the shit just fell apart, bro. I think it's what Mike said last week, how they kept buying scripts and figuring out ways to put them in.
Yeah, well, the Hellraiser franchise, obviously that came from Clive Barker. He directed the first one.
There's something wrong with that guy, bro. There's something wrong with Clive Barker, bro. I'm convinced of that.
Well, you better check your facts because people are going to read that differently. So
I'm sorry, I just thought that popped me, bro, but continue.
And then he also talks like this because he smokes a lot. What's going on, man?
Everybody in the business talks like that, bro, which always pops us, bro. Sean Michael Hickenbottom talks like that, bro. The coming out of retirement, Sean Michael Hickenbottom.
With his beady eyes.
And his fucking bald head now, bro. He's not even Shawn Michaels anymore, bro. You can't be Shawn Michaels and be bald.
No, not him and the other Shawn Michaels are both bald. So
I don't know about the other Shawn Michaels, bro. I think that is.
So Hellraiser was based on the Hellbound Heart.
Yep.
And essentially, that movie wasn't even about the Cenobites. It was about it was
about the guy and the chick. Yeah, really.
Yeah. I believe one of the titles was "What a Woman Would Do for a Good Fuck." That was one of the working titles when, that phrase kind of references what this movie's about. It's really about this relationship that's falling apart, and this girl wants this guy called Frank, which is played by Andrew Robinson, who was in the first Dirty Harry. I think he was Scorpio or whatever. And
not Charles Skaggs, right? We're talking about that Scorpio.
Oh, God.
That's a different movie we're talking about now, bro. Snakes on a plane, most likely.
The Scorpio Killer. So which was that was a great fucking movie, by the way, Dirty Harry. And no, not fucking Undertaker doing it in that WrestleMania 21 fucking.
That's right, bro.
So why you pop at that, bro?
Because those old movie skits pop me, bro. You know why?
Who was the Pulp Fiction? It was Eddie and Booker, right?
Yeah. It was Eddie and Booker, bro. And then you had Stacy Keibler doing Basic Instinct. I remember all that shit, bro.
Yeah, and Christian was the detective trying to get a peek.
Yeah, who was creepy even in that scene, bro. He's so damn creepy. Put a dot on his face.
So people have this idea that 1 and 2 are classics. I don't like part 2 because part 2 is fucking. It gets very convoluted. The main character Kirsty, she goes into the Cenobites world in part 2, and it just gets very convoluted. I don't like it that much. The classic is the first one.
Yeah, the first one is the best. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, Pinhead and all the Cenobites, they're just a byproduct of the story because they come out at the end when they open the configuration box.
They're not the heels at all.
No, they're not. The heel is the woman trying to make Frank come back.
Yeah, completely. Yeah,
so,
and then later on, it was sort of retconned to where Pinhead became the heel.
Right. Well, actually, Frank's the other guy. That's not Andrew Robinson. Andrew Robinson's Larry. The what do you call it, bro? The guy from The Notebook. What's his name? The one that always plays the beta, bro, in all the movies.
Oh fuck! I forget.
Fucking Cyclops, bro.
Bro. James
Marsden.
Marsden. That's right.
Well, Andrew Robinson plays the James Marsden in the Notebook.
Don't him and Bryan Singer aren't they in a relationship or something, bro? Supposedly, that's been the joke, right, for years.
Well, his career would have been a little more alive if that was the case.
I guess you're right.
So I'm not really a fan of the Hellraiser franchise. Everybody loves it, though.
I'm not a fan of it either. I'm glad we talked about this. I mean, I don't hate it. I'm not a fan, but it does have a hardcore following.
The Cluster Bees enjoy that franchise.
Well, yeah. I'm not surprised. Now, how do you feel about Candyman all these years later? Tony Todd is alpha. Let's get that out of the way. The movie, though, does it hold up?
Yes, Candyman's an absolute classic, bro. And a lot of people consider it the best horror film of the 90s. because it's a very smart film. It's really a good heel, and it's just a lot of people love it. I saw it recently, and it still holds up. It's very cerebral. It's a kind of deals with urban legends, and it introduces a new villain, which people needed at that time because people were played out on all the established.
It was like the beginning of a new franchise. Now, how do you feel about Phantasm and those movies?
Oh, I love those, boy. The Tall Man.
Yeah.
Now, Phantasm has a lot of people have written articles on that because Phantasm doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, the thing about Phantasm is that it's one big story arc, 1 through 5. Unfortunately, we just lost the Tall Man.
You're saying it's the Randy Savage WrestleMania 2 through 8 storyline that I came up with that I was right about?
Well, this one's more about, more linear than your wacky interpretation. But a lot of people think that it's all in the kid's head. It's not really because of the lore that's introduced later on. And the things that happen. Now, that's a movie that I wouldn't recommend younger audiences watch because it's very fantasy driven, and it could kind of lose you. And it's very of the time. So, but I love it. I have all of them, and I love that story because at the end of the day, there's some psychology into it because if it is the kid's coping mechanism, because he loses his brother in part 1, and then that starts this entire snowball where he goes to the cemetery and he sees the Tall Man taking all these bodies to make them slaves, and then you go into the Tall Man's world, which is another dimension, and so
it's a very freaky movie, I think.
Yeah, but it also works. It also works there's a lot of layers to it, and it is very tragic if the entire, as a coping mechanism for his brother's death, that always fascinates me. So I do enjoy that. J.J. Abrams loves this movie, bro. I think BB-8 he named it after. He got it from fucking the Phantasm.
BB-8 was Beastie Boys. That's what he had said. He said that himself.
Well, which one was it? He got some sort of reference from
Con Air, bro. That's your favorite reference.
Well, we know
bro.
Damn Rimpo.
I don't know how many times.
Because it's there, bro. How can you deny that?
I know. Now, a few years ago when we first started talking, I brought this up to you and you popped, bro. I think I got some brownie points with you. How do you feel about Japanese horror, specifically Ringu? Because I remember I called it Ringu, bro, and you popped, bro, because you didn't think I knew that it was called Ringu. How do you feel about? Remember, those were big. The Japanese horror, for a time in the early 2000s, American studios were remaking Japanese horror films. That was like a thing, right? What was the other one that also came out around that time? It was The Ring, and there was another one.
The Grudge.
The Grudge. There was one more, but yeah. How do you feel about those films?
Oh, I love them. And one thing we could talk about real fast is how the horror genre goes through phases. You had you had the 70s with the Satanic Panic, because that was in the news, right? All this Satanism. So you had all these great movies in the 70s dealing with the devil and cults and all that, there's some classics there. Then you had the slasher movie era after Halloween, Friday the 13th. Then you had the Scream era, which brought up all these teeny boppy self-aware films from the 90s. Like I said earlier, Urban Legends, Valentine, Scream, the Scream sequels. Then you had the J-horror era, which was the early 2000s, which, all these film studios, because The Ring was so popular, all of a sudden it was like, well, let's get the rights to a lot of other ones. And like I say, you had Ju-on, you had The Eye. Remember The Eye?
That's right, Ju-on. I forgot all about that one. Yeah.
No, that wasn't, the Ju-on was The Grudge. The Eye was.
Grudge. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had the torture.
Ju-on. We're not talking about him.
And then you had the torture porn era that came after the J-horror era, which was like the Saw and Hostel and those kind of films.
I wanted to discuss those with you as well, but continue.
And so right now we're kind of like this fanboyish era where you had a lot of people growing up there now making movies, and they're a little more smarter now because of that, because there's a lot of fanboys that got stroke and now they're making their own movies. So that's kind of the era we're on right now.
And don't forget, we also had the revival of the slasher genre in the 90s when we had movies like Scream, and then We Did Last Summer, the teen slasher movies.
I just said that, bro. What the fuck?
No, I know that. Yeah.
You're taking a couple of them drops, or what's going on here?
I actually did take one. Now, did you see Ring Rebirth from last year? I'm sure you did.
No, I didn't. It got such horrible reviews. It got such horrible reviews that I did not see it.
No, I was gonna say because I heard bad things, so I skipped it. But you're the guy who always goes see this shit anyways. I figured you would have gone and see Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah, you got a payday.
That's always a good thing.
No. That's one that and it's streaming on Amazon, no, on Netflix right now. It's available. It got such fucking horrible reviews that I didn't fucking do it. Now, one film, there's a couple films. We're gonna talk about J-horror right now. There's a couple films that people need to watch that are fucking awesome and they hold up. Of course, one of them is the classic Battle Royale. All right.
Is that really a horror movie?
Hell yeah, it is. For a couple reasons. First of all, the Japanese are incredibly fucked up. Their culture is wacky.
Absolutely true.
And they made this movie that their country was overpopulated, and they decided to get kids, people, and put them in an island, and they had to kill themselves, and the winner got to live. All right. Now, in America, what they would do is they would get like fucking 25-year-olds to play like 15-year-olds. Here, you had 15-year-olds playing 15-year-olds. All right. Right. Which gives you this weird, if you're coming from an American culture, especially now where everything's so politically correct, it gives you this creepy vibe to see that, because this is a very gory movie and you have kids offing each other and you have the lead heel, but this is wacky, bro. Remember the lead heel is the guy that volunteered to go, bro, because he's insane. He's crazy. Mm-hmm. So you have this lead heel there that's wiping everybody out, and then you have our heroes who have to not only have to protect themselves from all these other kids, but they gotta take out this lead heel who has like a Michael Myers like vibe, you know. But anyways, it's a great fucking movie. And then the other one is Audition, bro. Audition is fucking great. Now, that's Takeshi Miike, which is another guy that's kind of a great filmmaker in Japan. Audition is a story about this guy that has a lot of money that can't go on dates. So he has this dating service. He goes to this dating service and he meets this chick that he really likes, right? That's what's called Audition. And there's a couple creepy scenes. So she turns out to be a complete fucking psycho, right? And he tells her, I'm just going to give out a couple scenes that are classic. He's like, I'll give you a call when we're ready to go on a date. So they have this close-up of her just with her head down by her phone. And Takeshi Miike lingers on this fucking shot, bro. And she has her head down. She has her hair over her face. And the phone rings. And when the phone rings, in the background, you see a sack that starts moving, bro. So she already has some dude in a sack, bro. It's fucking crazy. Right. And then she answers the phone. And remember, this guy has no idea. She's like, oh, I'm ready for my date. And then she goes out. And the whole movie is about how like she kind of manipulates. I guess she's been doing this for a while. But that's a classic scene, bro. That one stayed with me for years. And so there's a lot of great movies. I mean, you have the Guinea Pig series, the thing about Japan too is that they're very disgusting culture too, bro. Like they take their gore to the next level. Yes. And some of that I'm not really into. Like I never got into the Guinea Pig. I never got into but the
Guinea Pig series was like the one of those series that the hardcore horror fans would always pop over. That was one that was like, tape traders would always talk about that one in the 90s.
That's right. And so that's one that I wouldn't really recommend because it's not. I mean, J-horror itself has a niche audience because it's coming from a different culture, so you might not even know what's going on. So like Old Boy's very good. That's more of an action thriller, but it kind of gets lumped into all these movies. And so those are from the J-horror era.
Okay, how do you feel about torture porn movies? We were talking about that briefly. They were around for a while, and then just not really. People don't really care anymore. I think it became a gimmick. I think Human Centipede got more and more gimmicky as it went along. If you even want to call that torture porn, I thought that was more. That's more like shock horror. Like I feel like a lot of these movies came out and they're just trying to purposely shock you. You know, like a Serbian film. Like that movie's meant to like purposely make you puke. Yeah. But it's almost like when I know what you're trying to do, it doesn't really work. You know, if that makes sense.
I don't like it because I'm a fan of story, and what I notice about these films, not all of them. There's some good ones, but a lot of them. It was all about the shock value. So the heel would get a lot of heat. By that, I mean the bad guy would kill a lot of people and he would dismember them. And a lot of them, they would hold someone captive and just torture them for hours. But you would never get a satisfying ending because they would never get their comeuppance because the movies weren't about that. It was about just showing you this extreme gore.
It's almost like high spot, right? Like that, right? That's the way I see
it. Exactly. And so that was
Ricky
the whole
Morton would hate that movie, bro.
That was the whole thing about torture porn. Like now, I don't like it. And if I hear about a movie that's that, I don't really care for it.
How do you feel about Dario Argento's Suspiria?
Well, that's a classic. I mean that, and it's so, and that's kind of random, but okay. I mean,
I'm saying like we're talking about like it just popped in my head. I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, no. Well, I mean, Dario himself. So now we're talking about the giallo. He introduced the giallo genre. And
explain what that is. That term is a little bit foreign to me. Giallo.
Okay, so what giallo is, it's an Italian concept, and it's an Italian form of filmmaking that's been, obviously now everything's been adapted because you have fanboys, like I said earlier, that grew up on this shit and now they're reintroducing it. So giallo has a lot of standard motifs. A lot of their movies are named after animals, like you have like the cat o' nine tails, the bird with the crystal plumage, flies on gray velvet, etc., etc. And it's a whodunit. It's always a whodunit. The entire movie is about usually you have a killer that's killing people, and you have a detective that's going after them. So I guess it would be kind of like a film noir in America, what those kind of films are, but except it's more gorier and it's horror. And traditionally, the villain, you could see you could just see his gloves. Like there's always gloves involved, and then at the end is revealed who they are, and then you start connecting all the pieces, and it all makes sense. So that's what a giallo is. And Dario Argento was one of the forefathers of the giallo. Mario Bava was another one. And so in the 70s,
Bava, the All Japan guy.
You're gonna do this all night, aren't you?
All night, bro. I got a couple more for you from the 80s. All right, I'm gonna hit you with. All right, but you want to finish your point about giallo? Go ahead.
No, so that's certainly if you're a film student, definitely there's the thing is that I think what people get confused is that every part of the world, like we just talked about the Faces from America, the slasher era,
the Japanese,
the J-horror,
they all have their own little group.
Yes, and they all have motifs or tropes. So I think sometimes people go into a giallo thinking, okay, this is I just explain what it is. The story could be something else, but it has tropes that they follow. Same thing with the French New Wave, which is another thing like the one with Irreversible. That one's where the movie takes place backwards, and it's like Memento, but it's horror, which is it's real horror actually. It deals with rape and whatnot. And so you have the French extremism, which is movies like Inside, Martyrs, which a lot of people like. So those are films that are a little more extreme,
Yeah, Martyrs is a movie that I've been told about. I've not seen it, but I've been told about this movie by several people, and they're saying it's all kinds of fucked up.
That it is. It's not. I don't like the ending of it, but I definitely do like the first 20 minutes of it.
Yeah, I heard the ending is fucked. Now, how do you feel about? And I think I know the answer to at least one of these, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer. But it's not so much about your opinion. I want to know if you think that modern audiences, how they would react to a film like 1981's The Evil Dead, the original Sam Raimi Evil Dead, and Reanimator from '85. How do you feel those hold up now?
I think people would like Reanimator because that's a dark comedy. It's wacky, and
like House.
Yeah, like kind of like that, but it has a sense of humor, that one's a real like dark comedy and stuff. So I think people would like that one. Which is the other one you asked about?
The Evil Dead. Sam Raimi.
I think
that your favorite movie at one time?
That was, bro. And I've seen it so many times, especially on the big screen, because they've had all these revivals for it. That is not really my favorite. No, it was my favorite horror movie of all time. Now it's Halloween. Because I grew to appreciate, John Carpenter's cinematography with Dean Cundey and all that shit. But no, Jeffrey Combs is incredibly charismatic, bro. Like that's one thing. He's the perfect Herbert West in Reanimator, and you start to see like the dark comedy about it. So the people that
do you think Evil Dead 1 is, in your opinion, Evil Dead 1? Do you think that people would be into it now? Because I feel like Evil Dead 2 was total like horror comedy, and then Evil Dead 3 was just a comedy, action comedy. But Evil Dead 1, I think, might be more difficult for people to get into. Usually people start with Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, well, I think Evil Dead 1 has enough fundamentals to where it's fucking scary, bro. Because again, we talk about the claustrophobia aspect. They're in this little cabin, and the movie picks up right away. It's not something. There's no meandering. There's no build up. It's just they're there. They discover the recording. They turn it on. They summon the demons, and we're off and running. All this happens within the first 10, 15 minutes, and then from there, the scares are built pretty well. When the women get infested by the demon. Those scares are pretty well built, so it definitely works. I think, and then if you watch it in the right setting, it'll work for you. I mean, there's still scenes in that movie that are scary, bro. And then you have the infamous tree rape scene that that's kind of
the most famous scene in the movie, I think.
Yeah, you have that part where the friend comes in and he's all beat up. Remember, the friend takes off, so he comes back and he's all beat up and he's bleeding, and the effects are pretty good. And then in the background, he's kind of turning into a demon, but you kind of don't notice it, but he kind of is. So that's kind of creepy. And the only thing that kind of kills it is that Ash they retcon Ash. I mean, he's a completely serious.
Completely right. It's like a different character.
That's right. So he completely gets retcon, but it's still once it's him versus all his friends. Because remember, he's got to kill all his friends because they've all turned, and he's by himself. And then he's got to kill his girlfriend. And remember when he's like, shut up, and he's slapping her, and then he throws her outside, and she just stands up Indian style, like she's sitting Indian style and just looking at him and laughing. That's a very annoying laugh, but it's also very scary, So that movie.
All the Evil Dead movies, he fights his girlfriend. I do like that at some point or another.
Yeah, because Sam Raimi grew up a huge fan of the Three Stooges, so he always adds a little touch to it.
He hates women like Bruce, like Vince Russo does, bro.
And the other guy from Campbell, California.
He likes women, but he likes them the way that we like them, if you know what I'm saying. But
the traditional
Cabin in the Woods, bro, that's a good one.
That's a great movie. That one.
Speaking of Cabin in the Woods movies, I'm just saying.
No, that one's you're gonna get more out of that one if you're a fan of the horror genre, because that one was made for horror geeks, And there's a scene where they're in that maze where they pay tribute to everything. You have zombies, you have the fucking people from The Strangers. Every little kind of killer that has ever been on film is in that part where they're going up those cubes and shit, and they're all locked in there. And it's a comedy more than anything because it's paying tribute to the horror genre. But if you're, I shouldn't even tell anybody that's a horror fan because I know they've seen it. That was made for us,
Yeah.
It's a great fucking movie.
How do you feel now? I want to talk a little bit about zombie films. There's a lot of them from all kinds of parts of the world. Italy has their own little zombie culture. Walking Dead has become kind of like the thing now when it comes to zombie, but that's more of an action show than an actual like horror. I still think. What?
I was saying now it has.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Now I still feel like. I still think Dawn of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead's obviously like the foundation. I still think the original Dawn of the Dead is probably the overall best zombie movie ever made. George Romero. Do you think this genre is dead, bro? I think it is, honestly.
I think it is. I'm played out on it. I mean, what happened is that The Walking Dead really brought the zombies into the mainstream, and once that became popular, everybody tried to make zombies, and then zombies talk now, zombies run now, zombies are funny now.
Kind of takes away from what zombies are supposed to be, anyways.
That's right, because the original Zombie, which was a movie called White Zombie, was about this idea that you could use witchcraft to summon people from the dead, right? It was more of a necromancy kind of thing. But now then it evolved to being bit with some sort of disease, which is like Night of the Living Dead kind of brought that to the forefront. But to your point, the thing about George Romero is that he was always, as far as being a social political commentary, he was always ahead of the curve. That's because right. Night of the Living Dead Part 1 ends very tragically. And by saying Part 1, I meant because there's a bunch of remakes after that.
Tons of remakes, Jesus.
So when that movie came out in the 60s, I believe it was 68, it was a big ending because the black guy survives this entire ordeal, and then the hillbillies kill him. They shoot him in the head. And what is he trying to say with that? Because he comes out there and he survived, but they still killed him, and then they just burn him with all the other zombies, bro. And so that was a huge political statement. Now in Dawn of the Dead, where do they go? They go to the mall. He's talking about consumerism. He's talking about the Reagan era. He's talking about, well, even though that came out way before that, but he's talking about this new idea that we were going to be dominated by what we have. So the idea that you're a mindless zombie just going to what you know best is the mall. There. Yeah, well, all his movies have some sort of metaphor. And then of course, Day of the Dead dealt with that's another good movie too. But the one that has Dennis Hopper in it. Yeah. People are yelling at me right now, but I've been drinking, so That one,
What else is new?
because he was talking about how you have the rich trying to keep the land, and then all the poor are out there dealing with the zombies, you know. So, but like you said, that there's been tons and tons of zombie films over the years. Some of them kind of create their own rules and stuff. So I am burned out on that.
Do you think, and I'm going to go way back now, movies like Nosferatu from 1922, even the Hammer movies, the old Frankenstein, Dracula, the original cinematic universe, right? I feel like, that was more the Universal, but I feel like those movies, they're classics, but I just can't imagine modern audiences getting into those movies. I'm just being real with you. They're almost, I hate aging films, but I don't know, man. I find it.
No, you're right. You're right. They won't like them because they're very slow.
They're
and
very cheap. The special effects look very dated. Also,
Yes,
very dated. Like I've had people tell me that Superman 1 looks dated, and I'm like, "What are you crazy?" Like these movies look dated though.
Yes, and I think some of them like Frankenstein and Bride, and they'll survive because the story's good enough, maybe. But like the Mummy's boring, bro. Like that's a boring fucking movie, you know. The original Universal one.
So is the one with Tom Cruise. The biggest shit, bro. The Mummy. I'm sorry. The Tom Cruise Mummy, bro, was one of the biggest shits that Hollywood's taken in a long time, dog.
Yeah, because they misread the audience. But again, they're using the assumptions that we're using right now. You got to be flashy. You got to have action sequences. You know, again, we talked about these suits up there in their tower creating these movies. You have lawyers and accountants creating these films, trying to maximize their.
Fry?
So you are gonna go all night with this shit.
I am.
Trying to maximize their profits, you know. But what they don't understand is that you're reading everything wrong. You're reading a fucking sheet that tells you just checking off. That's why I call it McHollywood, because it's an assembly line of what they think the audience wants, right? And to a certain degree, you do have the casual audience who just wants to go out on a Friday night and just be entertained. They don't care about that. But in order for your film to have a legacy, it's got to have some sort of meat on that bone. You gotta have something to bring it back, because I've always said that the casuals are always going to be there and they're going to watch something on a Friday night. But the ones that carry your legacy are the hardcores. They're the ones that are through word of mouth are going to make your movie a legendary movie, you know, and then later on you can circle back around and make money off of that. So I think over the years, especially over the last 10 years, films have gotten very smart. I think Kevin Feige had a lot to do with this. I think when he started the MCU, he was like, you know what? I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it, you know, there's going to be some sort of artistic integrity to these films. And he changed the entire legacy of the Hollywood blockbuster, something that we hadn't seen since the 70s, since Star Wars and Jaws did it, you know? So I think that was so special what he did, and he's still doing it. Because now those films are going to be around forever. Not only do they serve the casuals, but the hardcores are also gravitating towards there, and they're going to keep them alive. So that's why I'm very happy with where Hollywood is at right now. Because the days of the bullshit, you know, just throw something there for shits and giggles is dead. People are regurgitating that now. We saw that the last two the Rock films. That's why they've gotten critically panned. They haven't made the money they should have made because they're shit. Those guys still think they're in the mid-90s where you could just throw shit and it's going to get over. It doesn't get over anymore.
I liked Rampage.
Fuck that movie, bro.
I liked
and Skyscraper.
Yeah, I heard bad things. I didn't even see it. Now, Dwayne, bro. All right,
brother, Dwayne needs to fire his fucking agent again like he did when he had him doing Disney movies.
Wasn't his agent named Ira Goldberg, according to that one Raw where they were chanting Goldberg the night that Goldberg came out?
I think so, bro.
He called her Ira Goldberg.
It was Ari Emanuel who owns the world, evidently.
Apparently so, bro. Well, he's very happy. That's all I'm going to say about that this past weekend. So
him and Disney are conspiring with these. They got that globe that
with
used
Dave,
to,
bro, with Dave.
They used to
and
that all the
Antonio
promoters.
Peña's ashes. Dragon Lady, bro. She rest in peace. So, all right. Some people are probably wondering why didn't we cover you know, Exorcist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th. I feel like because I assume, and probably you too, that they've already seen these movies. If you haven't, you obviously should, right? These are super mainstream classics. Everybody's already seen these movies.
If you haven't, please do. Drop everything.
They're so well known, you know.
But there's people out there that have never seen them.
You're right. And you should. I mean, I think one day we can always come back and recap those franchises individually. You know what I mean?
So these are the films that I want people to watch. I'm just gonna give a list. I don't want to talk about them because it's gonna take us forever. But these are the films that I think if you haven't seen them, because sometimes people tend to be like, I don't know what to watch, but you haven't seen The Foundation, and it's like, dude, go watch The Foundation first, and trust me, you're gonna be good because these movies are timeless.
They're still good, is what you're saying.
So I'm gonna go with these. Go watch Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead.
Man, you say dead in every movie. That's what popped me, bro.
Lucille Fulci's Zombie, which is very influential.
With ZOMBI.
Yeah. The Return of the Living Dead, which is another influence. It really established that dark horror comedy. Dead Alive, which is Peter Jackson's classic. Cemetery Man, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer,
and Part 3, bro, with Kincaid, bro, one of our favorite characters. Freddy's back.
Go watch Reanimator, The Hellraiser, Pumpkinhead, The Howling, An American Werewolf in London.
I was waiting for you to say that. Yeah.
Phantasm 1, The Shining, The
Omen?
Exorcist, The Omen, Psycho, The Thing, Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, and Pet Sematary. That's my list right there. That would give you the fundamentals. The fundamentals. They're all classics. And if you haven't watched any of those, you have no business even watching anything else because you got to start there. And I guarantee you, those movies will hold your attention. They're all very well crafted. They're all very well made, and they're classics. All right. So those are the films that you should watch before you start. I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I think Insidious 1 and 2 and Conjuring, I mean, that's more modern. Let's talk about some of the modern movies. So, okay, real briefly, okay, so Babadook, I liked it. Not everybody did, though. Obviously, Get Out was I was impressed at how good
that movie to me gets better the more I see it. In the beginning, I was like, I don't know what the hype, but I revisited it time and time again, especially because it was an Oscar contender. And it's a great fucking film, bro. Like the more I see it, the more I understand what Jordan Peele was trying to do with it, and he blew up. I mean, he's a showrunner for the new Twilight Zone, which is good because I think he's going to recruit good filmmakers to give their own little short stories, and it's going to be a good television show.
It 2017 I thought was good, and of course, we talked about A Quiet Place as well.
I really enjoyed it.
Hereditary.
Now, again, this goes back to what we're talking about, is that you got these guys who now have to write very intelligent movies because the stakes were all raised, and we can't. And all these films leave you thinking. All these films leave you enough to say, okay, what really happened? Like Quiet Place. What I like about that movie is that it gives you enough to enjoy the little moment in time that we were giving. But there's so many questions. There's so many questions. Where these beings come from? Why? So many cool things. And of course, it's like
also Alien 1.
Oh, definitely. Alien is another one that needs to be seen. And so what I like, Quiet Place is a lot like Halloween. It introduces you to things, but it doesn't give you all the answers. And it works with what it has. It's such a minimal story, but it works so well. And it really knows how to, there's a very heartfelt moment there at the end. That's pretty cool. So it's a great movie. People should definitely check that out.
What about 1982's Basket Case?
Well, that one's wacky, bro. That filmmaker's a wacky guy. So
Frank Henenlotter or whatever.
Yeah,
bro.
Frank Henenlotter. He did Frankenhooker. Now we're going to the second tier of the underground guys. Who again, I talked earlier about William Lustig, who did Maniac Cop. You have those kind of guys too that have their own following, and people love those guys because they gave us those kind of movies. You have the.
How do you feel about Kill List, bro? And no, not Mark Wren's Kill List that you and I popped for, bro. The movie Kill List.
That's a great movie, bro. It was one of my favorites that year.
2012. Now, you said before we started recording that you had a list of disappointing movies you wanted to talk about as well.
Yes, and that's from this year.
Okay.
Now, obviously, Insidious 4, I saw it back in January. That's my biggest disappointment of the year.
I was going to say, I saw it again. I didn't hate it the first time, but I really didn't like it the second time, bro. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's the worst heel in Insidious history. He has no heat with me at all. That's a movie, again, what was that thing I told you about earlier, about how prequels are trying too hard to tie into the other ones? That movie is embarrassingly bad. The fact that she ran into her fucking brother at that diner.
Oh god, that convenience of it, yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 things in that movie, bro, that are just like fucking stupid, bro. And Lynn Shay, I like Lynn Shay, I really do. It's not her fault.
Well, she's a scream queen. I mean, we saw her in Nightmare on Elm Street. We saw her in Amityville. You know,
that reminds me, Amityville. How do you feel about those movies? I actually think Amityville movies, they're not that great, bro. Not most of them.
The first one's pretty good. I mean, the first one's the only one I would suggest. Oh, no, the second one's good too because that one's a prequel. That one tells you how the first one, the killer that killed all his family, and that's haunting the first one. The second one kind of revisits that, so that's actually a good prequel. After that, they all turn to shit, though. I mean, they have no connection though. It's just different stories in the same house essentially. So,
but yeah, Insidious 4 just. Man, like, and there were some cool concepts that were introduced. It's not there was some good stuff in there, but it was a big letdown, I think. Yeah, overall. And
then a movie that's hugely influential in a lot of the slasher genre is Black Christmas, which I just watched recently. Black Christmas is it stars Margot Kidder and Olivia Hussey. Olivia Hussey is kind of a scream queen. Margot Kidder, of course, was in Superman. That's what she kind of. And in Amityville, that's right. And she
died, I think, earlier this year, right? She passed away?
I believe so, yeah, unfortunately. But that's a great movie, bro. And that one is also there's a lot of tension there. It's about this guy that sneaks up into the attic, and essentially he's stalking the girl. It's like a sorority house, and he's stalking them. From the phone, he calls them and shit. And of course, it has that classic scene where it's like they're trying to find out where the call's coming from, and it's coming from the house. That always works. And so yeah, that's another classic that if you haven't seen it, you should check out. Now I will say this about Black Christmas: it's a little bit slow because they try to put a lot of put a lot of character development on the girls before they kill them. So there's a lot of talking back and forth, and so it is pretty slow. But if you do want to kind of have an appreciation for older movies that establish some of the newer ones, Black Christmas is definitely the way to go.
Okay, what else was disappointing for you on your list of disappointing movies?
Okay, well, you want to talk a little bit about the Cloverfield Paradox, which you didn't even know came out.
I didn't even know anything about this, bro. Now, Cloverfield 1, let me give you my opinion. I think it was a found footage.
Are you gonna give me your opinion? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That's right, I will. Because we're on the internet right now. Cloverfield 1, I thought was. It was basically a found footage monster
I love that movie. That's a great fucking movie.
Yeah, I agree. It is a good movie. I still think
Jojo gave us that movie.
Jojo. Yeah, this is his franchise. But I feel like it does lose luster after the first viewing, in my opinion. I think the second time I watched it, it wasn't as cool as the first time. That's my opinion.
Again, and we're seeing a pattern here. I love the unknown of that movie, and I love. Yeah. You know one of the things that I'm a huge mark for, I'm a huge fan of, is this idea of establishing characters and they're going about their daily lives, and then boom, something happens that is not even their fault, and they all become victims of it. Again, it happened in Halloween, it happened in Cloverfield. You have these people that are just going out to a party, which is the point of view that we're getting. And what I like about Cloverfield is that it's establishing problems within that relationship, so you have drama there too. But that's that again. We're talking about the red herrings and the MacGuffins. That doesn't matter. It's just something that makes you think that's where the film is going. You have the couple that's breaking up, and you're with them, right? And then all of a sudden, this monster just comes and attacks New York City, and all that shit's forgotten. And that's really the plot of the movie. And then the unknown aspect of it, the fact that these people are finding out what's going on with us. And then you have the government all of a sudden involved. What do they know? They probably don't know shit. And then also when Clover, they call him Clovey. He doesn't really have a name. When Clovey starts fucking scratching himself and those ticks fall off, those parasites fall off of him, and then all of a sudden they're fucking creeping the subways of New York. What the fuck's going on? Yep. So it's just an incredible film. It's a class. It's a legitimate classic.
And that was another movie that was very well promoted. That was like Blair Witch, where they went back to that kind of viral promotion.
Well, that's JJ's thing. He loves the viral bullshit, which sometimes he goes overboard with it.
No, he loves the mystery box, but I think it worked out well there. By the way, you know what we didn't talk about, bro, is Children of the Corn. We didn't even mention that.
Oh, that one's cool, but that one doesn't age well. That one's really slow.
No, I think it has 8, 9 sequels, and I don't know if any of them are good. I've never seen any of the sequels to Children of the Corn, bro, to this day.
Well, I have because of the video store era. I rented them all once or twice, But that one, I don't really like that movie. It just, we all remember Malachi, who's the redheaded kid, who's kind of like the leader of the pack. But yeah, it's all right, whatever. So Malachi's not the leader. The little guy, the preacher little looking guy is the leader, who looks exactly the same now, but he's like really old. He's the leader.
All right, so Cloverfield Paradox. What was the problem here? What was this about? What is the story here?
So the promotion of Cloverfield Paradox was genius. Nobody knew anything about it. Nobody knew it was being filmed. Somehow JJ kept it under wraps, which was very clever. I think he used another name. So it was, bro, in this modern age to be able to do that, that's incredible, right? So he did talk about having Cloverfield Overlord, which is coming out next month, which is a film that I'm really looking forward to. It's not just called Overlord. They're not even calling it Cloverfield anymore.
Really? They're taking this. Why?
I have a theory that it was because of how this film that I'm about to talk right now was received. So on the Superb Owl, aka the Super Bowl Sunday this year, they show a trailer for Cloverfield Paradox, and everybody pops, right? You're getting everybody knows that it's all about the trailers during the commercials and shit. And then this is genius, bro. Instead of saying coming in during the summer or it's gonna come in the next 2 months or next month, available right after the game on Netflix. Everybody shit their pants. Holy shit! You could just imagine the subscriptions went through the roof. I do
remember that now. You know very, what? Very, very. I think you and I talked about it.
Very clever marketing, bro. It was genius because what better way to you give people this trailer, you think people are gonna have to wait for it, and it's gonna be available right after the game on Netflix. All right. The problem with that movie is that it was shit, and they try to shoehorn the Cloverfield concept because evidently what it was another movie, and this is what's been going on with Cloverfield recently because Cloverfield, the second one, 10
Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah, that one was great. That's a phenomenal fucking movie. And it works in all kinds of levels. If people haven't seen 10 Cloverfield Lane, go check it out. It's an amazing film. There's not a lot of connection with Cloverfield, but it's incredible. John Goodman plays a great fucking, I guess you could say, villain in it. And so now we had Cloverfield Paradox. So this film is about this. I'm not going to give it away because I want you to see it. And it's available to you if you want. You can see it tomorrow if you want.
I think you told me, why would I want to see it if it's terrible, though?
I mean, if you want to just be a completist, And
I see. Yeah, okay, I got you.
So it's about this movie takes place in the future, and it's about the space station. So it introduces all these guys, and then girls, kind of like Alien. It has that Alien vibe to it. And there's no energy on Earth anymore. So their job is to go through this portal and reestablish energy. Like they're going to do some wacky shit to where they're going to restart energy. But something happens and they create a paradox. So that's where this I think their idea was that that's going to be our explanation where all these Cloverfield movies are different because what happened up there fucked up with the time continuum. And now you have all these dimensions kind of crossing over. But the problem is that the film is it's not that good and it's kind of boring in a lot of ways. And a lot of it kind of doesn't really make sense. And then they reshot footage of Earth of like people walking. And then all of a sudden they're being attacked by what seems to be Clovey. And it just kind of horseshoed in there. And at the end, they have this scene where like the people are coming down from like a escape pod, and then Clovey just shoots his head up and the clouds, which doesn't make sense either because he wasn't even that big in the first one. And that's it. And so everybody kind of hated it. It didn't really work. And my theory is that they retcon Cloverfield Overlord, and it's just gonna be a regular movie now about that one is in World War II, and there's like some zombies or some shit going on. It looks pretty cool. I'm gonna go check it out.
That's just so. Is this franchise dead in your opinion?
I mean, J.J. Abrams has said he's been saying since the beginning that it's not really a franchise. He wants people to think of it as an anthology film with the Cloverfield name on it. That's all he ever said. He said that since the very beginning.
Oh, he's trying to be like Carpenter now, bro. What a parent that guy is.
The real story is that he buys all these scripts and he films them that have nothing to do with Cloverfield, and then he just stamps the Cloverfield name on there. Yep. And he'll film a couple scenes to kind of connect it a little bit, and then he'll put them out there. 10 Cloverfield Lane worked pretty well because that movie itself is pretty good and the script is pretty goddamn good. And the only connection is that John Goodman's character works for the satellite company or the oil rig company that disrupted Clovey to wake him up and shit. That's the only connection to Cloverfield. But right here in this third one, they try to really push it to tell us why Clovis on Earth and that there's another dimension. It was kind of like The Mist too in a lot of ways. What was happening in The Mist.
So I'm gonna add a couple of,
which is another great film.
Yeah, I was just gonna say actually, I'm gonna add a few movies to your list that people should watch.
Shawshank Redemption, which is Shawshank Redemption, which is scary for other reasons.
Well, it's scary because if you're in there, bro, and those bull queers, they. I don't ever want to deal with that, bro. And by the way, before anybody gets offended, that's what they're called in the movie.
That's right.
They call them bull. They're called the sisters. They're referred to as bull queers. But that movie's very, very controversial. But Frankie Darabont did a good job. The Descent, The Mist.
Great movie. The Descent's very, very good movie. Another one people should check out.
I think the first three, but really the first one is great.
The first Saw started the whole, and it's funny because that one wasn't really torture porn, but it really started hitting the sequels kind of became that, with all that gore and all that stuff and the heel getting all that heat. But the first one really it was for its time, it was very well crafted. The acting wasn't very good because James Wan was like 27 or 28. The acting is actually not that good at all. But the story I think is pretty goddamn original.
And he collects checks for every sequel, right?
Yeah.
Because he created the Jigsaw puppet.
That's right. Just like Johnny Carpenter collects checks for every Halloween, no matter if he's there or not.
That's right. Which these guys are smart. Devil's Backbone, Guillermo del Toro, probably the best movie he's done until Shape of Water. Is that fair to say?
Which one? Devil's Backbone?
Yeah.
Let me think about it. Yeah, you could say that. But Shape of Water fucking rocked me, so that one's his best movie in my eyes. Even though
you also didn't mention Cairo when talking about the Japanese horror films.
Yeah, that's another one that's up there. Sure.
Yeah, no. What do you call it? What were you gonna say though about
No, I'm gonna say.
Backbone?
Oh no, that's a great film. I love that film. I reviewed it on the Horror Returns podcast. I think with House of a Thousand Cats, which is an old wacky fucking B movie. But yeah, no, that's another great film. But Shape of Water is my favorite Del Toro film ever.
How do you feel about House of a Thousand Corpses and the other Rob Zombie films, not Halloween?
I feel like the only two good movies that Rob Zombie's ever done is House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Reaches.
I think those favorites also.
I think House of a Thousand Corpses for the time was very good. I think his tribute to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was spot on because he modernized it in the way that the characters he built.
He's definitely a fan of the genre.
Oh, definitely. But he's also kind of he's like John Carpenter, as he's kind of a moody motherfucker too. So it's kind of hard to get him to open up sometimes. Like John Carpenter's the same way. Because John Carpenter, I don't know if you know this, but every time they interview him and they try to put over his movies, the first thing he says is like, well, why didn't you watch them when they came out? He has that for every fucking. He's always like
he's got that chip on his shoulder. You're talking about, right?
Yeah, because for the people that don't know, John Carpenter's movies were never real money makers. They ended up becoming classics later on, and that's really frustrated him because he claims that he lost jobs because of that. You know, he was supposed to direct Firestarter, but when the thing flopped, they took that job away from him, and so he couldn't do it. So. You know, and then also John Carpenter, he's my favorite all-time director, by the way. He's my favorite, but his 90s films suck, bro. He went in he has all these great classics in the 80s, but then his 90s films are not that good. And so like Escape from LA is not that good, even though it has Bruce Campbell in it.
I don't understand Escape from LA, bro. I don't get it. So I still don't get it. Escape from LA, it ignores Escape from New York and just puts it in L.A. I never understood that. I don't get why he even made it.
I don't think he knows either. But at the same time, I think it was like a loose sequel, but it has all the beats from Escape from New York.
Yeah, it's like a remake. But it's the same director and the same actor.
That's right.
All right. Also, David Cronenberg's The Fly.
Oh, that's a great fucking movie, bro. That's one of the, in my opinion. That's one of the rare remakes that's better than the original, way better than the original. I mean,
yeah.
and talk about fucking
Jeff Goldblum, the alpha, bro. He'll always be alpha in our eyes, bro.
Talk about perfect casting with Jeffy Goldblum, bro, as Seth Brundle, the Brundlefly, bro.
And he hooked up with what's her name on the set? Didn't they hook up?
Yes. Oh, they did, definitely. With Gina Davis.
Gina Davis, yeah. How do you feel about Tale of Two Sisters, the Korean one with Kim Ji-woon, the guy who did I Saw the Devil?
Which was one of my favorite movies of all time. I Saw the Devil was one of my favorite movies of all time, bro. Yes. I want you to know that.
Yeah, don't spoil it.
Okay,
also,
no,
how do you feel about Tremors?
I like Tremors, bro. Old monster movie. All these movies we're talking about, we want people to check them out. I love Tremors, bro. Tremors is one of those. It's one of those good time movies, though. Like it reminds me of the old Hollywood movies from the 50s, like Them, those kind of films, which was a response to the atomic age, right? Once the atomic age came, you had all these films that dealt with all these monstrosities being created because of the atomic bomb, and that was Them was one of them. The tarantula. All these movies where that you had big ass insects. Well, that's what Tremors reminded, and that's what the filmmaker wanted to go for. And it's just a fun movie, bro. And it's a relatively safe movie for kids too. So people should check that one out, definitely.
Yeah, there's a lot. Okay, we've hit them with a lot of movies.
But going back to The Fly, because The Fly is a classic, not just because of The Fly and because of the gore effects. David Cronenberg has always been into body horrors. Scanners. He did The Fly.
Videodrome. That was him. He did Videodrome, right?
Videodrome, yeah, and Rabid, The Brood, The Dead Zone.
Don't forget, Shivers, we talk about, they came from within the Parasite murders.
That's right, Shivers. And he did the History of Violence and Eastern Promises, which a lot of people love. They're not horror, but
I love History of Violence, brother. There's so many alphas in that movie, bro.
So the thing about The Fly that's great is that it works on a couple levels. First of all, it's dealing with the AIDS scare of the 80s. That's really what David Cronenberg was talking about. He was doing a metaphor for AIDS. And also it works as a love story because it's a very sweet movie where you have this couple that finally, you could tell that these two are kind of lost in the world, especially because Seth Brundle's kind of awkward, and then he meets this girl and they fall in love. And then at the end it's very, bittersweet when she's the one that has to kill him. And it's a great fucking movie, and that's a classic, and people love it, and I love it, and they need to check it out. Don't check out part 2 though with Eric Stoltz. That's not that good.
No, it's not, bro. But didn't part 2 get like a cult following?
Well, it's very gory, but it's not that good. I mean, when you compare it to the classic of part 1, it doesn't hold up. But it's it's watchable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's going to be it. I mean, I can't think of anything else to talk about here as far as... I mean, we can talk about movies all day, but I mean, we've already given the people... I don't want to overwhelm them with any more movies, bro, because I feel like if they're watching this or listening to this and they're writing some of these movies down, there's a lot. Like, you yourself gave them a huge list, and that's with the classics, but there's just so much. I mean, we didn't even get into, like, the more underground stuff. Like, we could have done a whole show about freaking Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah, well, let me give them a quick rapid fire list of about 5 or 6 of them that they should check out that are available right now at Amazon. If you want to check out Amazon or Netflix, these are readily available. Now, like I said earlier, Hell House LLC is available. You could watch it today if you want. Savage Land is available on both streaming services. There's a film here now. Years ago, I wrote a script when I was really into the commentary tracks that came out with the DVDs and the laser discs back in the laser disc, I should say, not laser discs. There was I really fell in love with the commentaries. Anybody that's a cinephile loves the commentaries because they're very informative. And what I like about them is that they're very loose. Like, you're gonna get like Ben Affleck being Ben Affleck. He's not trying to and sometimes they talk shit about the movie, bro, if it sucks. And then you have some.
If you're a film student, also, I want to say. They are essential, I feel, like, the commentary.
Yeah, like for example, I just saw the Avengers 3 one, and I learned a lot, bro. You learn all the motivations, why they cut this. The Russo brothers were incredible on that. And then you
still couldn't tell the whole story because the next one's going to have the finale, and that's where we're going to get more information, I think. I think Avengers 4 will tell us more about Avengers 3, if that makes sense.
But they do give you a lot of updates. Like, they tell you why they couldn't show Xandar being destroyed. And you know what? Believe it or not, because somebody made a list online, they do give you some scoops for the next one. I mean, they definitely, that's where they make their claim that Avengers 3 is this whole movie, and Avengers 4 is not really a sequel. It's more of another Avengers movie, kind of like Avengers 1 and 2, which is not really a sequel to Avengers. It's a whole other movie. That was their argument, and they made that on the commentary, and they tell you why, and it makes sense. But the cool thing, and then you have some classic commentaries where, like, there's one, I think it's the Driller Killer, where Abel Ferrara, who's an alpha, he just gets pissed off and he walks away. He's like, fuck this shit. And he's in a bad mood. And that's all in the commentary. And then there's just a silent movie. Nobody's talking because he left the room. There's little things like that. There's the Clerks one where Jason Mewes is all fucked up. He's like super drunk. And obviously later on we find out that he had a drug problem. But you see shit like that on commentaries. So I had this idea years ago, and I wrote a screenplay where I'm getting somewhere. Bear with me here. Where you had this movie, there was a horror movie, and it had a commentary, bro. Like the whole you're watching this commentary, and this guy's talking about, and it starts off very gentle, right? He's talking, and you're as if you're like, what the hell's going on? And then it's revealed that the movie was a snuff film, and what we're watching was real, and this guy's in an insane asylum being managed by a psychiatrist, because the psychiatrist feels that a way to get the true story is if we allow this guy to talk about his movie. So that was the big twist at the end of my movie, right? It's like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like, and then you have things like in the middle of the movie, like, yeah, that person is no longer with us anymore. That's what the director's telling you. You're like, why? I mean, it's just a movie. But later on, you find out that he fucking killed him. I had this idea, and then they fucking made it, bro. Penn Jillette made a movie called Director's Cut, which is a great movie about this obsessed
fan.
fan.
Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller.
Yes, bro.
Okay, just making sure.
He made this great movie called Director's Cut. It's on Amazon right now. It just came out this year, where he's doing direct. It's a dark comedy. It's more of a dark comedy, but it has horror elements. He's this obsessed fan with this actress, and he helps fund a movie. So he's on set, and he steals the reel of the film, and he also kidnaps the actress, and he makes his own movie while using that film footage. It's actually pretty clever. And he's running commentary through all this, and he's giving us all these things about film that we all know, like if you're a cinephile, and all these like terms that only cinephiles would know. And so it's pretty fun. So people should check out Director's Cut. Mom and Dad with Nicolas Cage. Mom and Dad, that's a movie about and of course Nicolas Cage is always going to give you whacked out Nicolas Cage.
Big marks for him on our shows.
So
he gives us entertainment, whether it be good or bad. You know what I'm saying?
So Mom and Dad is a film about this regular day where these kids go to school, and all of a sudden the mom and dads, something happens. They never explain it, which again I like. They want to kill all their kids, bro. Like all the moms and dads want to kill their kids. We don't know why, and so that's the whole story. The kids of Nicolas Cage and the mom, they're being haunted by them, and we don't know why. So that's a very fun movie. Tragedy Girls is very good. People should check that out. It's about these girls that kind of become serial killers because they get like an online following, and that kind of deals with how, you know, the whole YouTube craze and how people become big on YouTube, and they're trying to push the envelope, and they've kind of become, this phenomenon.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
And I'll leave it there for now. The Revenge is another one that's making the round.
The Revenge? That is horror for a different reason.
No, not Jaws of Revenge, bro. So it was a pretty decent year for horror, especially video on demand horror. You're not gonna get really good horror on the big screen anymore, because one of the things that's happened is that the mid-level budget horror films have died. Either you produce a low budget movie, which is somewhere in like $1 million to $5 million, and you put it out on video on demand, or you produce a big budget horror movie. But the era of like the $15-20 million movie is pretty much dead now. We don't see that anymore. And that's unfortunate, because a lot of classics came out of that little middle ground there. But nobody's
made it work.
Yeah. So now either you go real low budget, $1 to $5 million, and you produce it on VOD and hope people find an audience, or you go big time and you get like 50, 60 million and, you know, or 100 million, and then you put it on the big screen. So these little movies are no longer around, and that's unfortunate, but that's the world we live in, and that's pretty much it.
I think the scariest movie, even though it's not a horror movie, is The Last Jedi. But actually, no, the scariest movie is that Paige leaked footage. Oh yeah, baby, that's the scary.
Now, let me say this before we leave, because I know by the time this comes out, Halloween 2018 is going to come out. I'm not going to say no spoilers, because I want you to see it.
I will be reviewing that on World of Geekdom. Actually, I got an invite. I didn't tell you. I got an invite to go see it Tuesday, an early screener. And if I get picked, I might go. I might go see it Tuesday instead of a Thursday.
So I'm gonna just say this. It's a very, 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 very fucking good film.
It's the best one since the first one.
Yes, I'm gonna go on yes, it is. And for any fanboys that are concerned, don't be. That's all I'll say. That's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to say anything else.
Even fanboys of the Thorn trilogy.
Well, I mean, I think people are yes, because it doesn't bring it up, but it certainly makes you remember that. And the new John Carpenter score for this film is incredible.
He did score himself.
Yes, he made new music for it.
That's crazy. That's good. So his involvement is Scoring as well as what? Is he a writer?
Consultant. He was a consultant.
Okay, so basically the writers asked him like what George Lucas is supposed to do, like, can we do this? Can we do that with Michael Myers?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That's good. That's good then. That I like.
And also one of your complaints last week was, where the fuck has this guy been all this time? You don't have to worry about that in this film. That's something that, what I'm trying to say is that anything that you have concern, the filmmakers knew about it and they gave it to you. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
They sat down and thought for a minute and was like, okay, how can we make this work?
Yes. Now, there is one part that bothered me a little bit, and when you see it, I want to talk to you about it. It's in the third act. That's about it. Other than that, I fucking loved it. It was like a fanboys just. I'm biased because there was a lot of people that worked on the film with the screen that I went to. So I mean, they were kind of kissing each other's asses in a lot of ways too. There was like a Q&A before and all that shit. So they had already kind of predisposed me to liking it, right? So I want to watch it again with an unbiased eyes. But from what I saw, it was a pretty good. I don't want to say it was a great film, but it was a very, very, very good film, bro. And I think it lives up to the name, and the first one specifically.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here. And I hope that this show that we did right here is timeless. I hope that next year, they really, people come back and listen to this show. But I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. I mean, because there's always new horror movies coming out. Halloween, there's always going to have October horror movies. That's never going to end. So, and remember how Halloween movies came out in August for a while? Like, I don't know what were they thinking, bro? Like...
That's one of the big mysteries of Hollywood, is like you would think October would be flooded with them, but they're really not. And I think it's the old Carney promoter theory of like, they're out there doing other Halloween shit. So if we give them horror movies, they're not really gonna dig them, which is kind of flawed.
Let's not do a wrestling show on Thanksgiving, even though back in the day that's all they did and they always drew money. That whole thing.
That's there you go. That's the thing right there.
Thanksgiving Star Wars.
And before we go, I want to tell them about the KLB shirts, bro. Just in case they listen to us.
Yes, we have fabulous Lucha Brothers t-shirts. If you head over to Teespring and you go to the Geekdom101 store, I'm actually going to leave a link on the show notes of this show. I'm going to actually write a note right now so I remember, because I'm going to forget if I don't write this note. The Geekdom101 store, we have a new Geekdom101 t-shirt, Empower Your Life and Become the Emperor of Your Life. And we have the first KLB shirt, which is basically the KLB logo, available now in all sizes, ships all over the world in various colors as well. You can get any KLB shirts, including pink for all your alternative lifestyle Denny Luises out there. So that's available as well.
And also, I'm gonna get me a hoodie because I like those hoodies. I think the price is right for the hoodie.
They feel nice, bro, for real.
And that's what I'm gonna be rocking, because I really enjoyed when I saw them. That was me right there. Especially now that we're in the season where it gets cold and chilly, you want something to keep you warm. And the next best thing next to a woman would be you wearing one of them KLB hoodies.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. It's always fun to talk about horror.
Always. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.